Of us, let's speak to Peter Zalmayev. He's the director at the Eurasia Democracy Initiative, and he joins us now live from Kiev. Why hasn't President Lukashenko cancelled his military parade?
Well, I mean, this is very much in line with his usual modus operandi. Mr. Lukashenko has presented himself as a hands-on leader, a paternalistic kind of authoritarian leader who is not afraid the way his counterparts, even in neighboring Russia, are afraid. In that sense, he's trying to distinguish himself from a line of hysteric, as he puts it, leaders who are unable to come up with practical solutions to what he sees the major problem here. And to him, the major problem has been a slowdown in the economy. He said, okay, we can institute a full quarantine, but then what are we going to have to eat? So you hear all this kind of denialism from Mr. Lukashenko on TV about coronavirus. But on the other hand, you have to also mention that his Ministry of Health and other authorities are working overtime to try to come up with the proper number of tests, and there's been a lot of testing in Belarus, etc. So compared to the neighboring Ukraine, where I'm based. So while the death toll right now stands at about 21,000 people, my suspicion is that it's not that it's too high in Belarus. It might be too low, let's say, in Ukraine, where there's just not sufficient testing. So Lukashenko has claimed that Belarus is following the example of Singapore, South Korea, and Sweden. And well, yes, there are some similarities, but the one major difference is that he is the one making this decision, not the relevant authorities. So it's ultimately a political decision for Lukashenko not to abide by the commonly accepted practice of quarantine.
And Peter, how are all these measures and the president's attitude being perceived by the people of Belarus? Do they stand by their president, or are they criticizing this?
Well, first, let me just right off the bat say that over 70% of polled Belarusians, and you have to take it with a grain of salt, considering that, you know, there's not much reliable information in a country where the media is very much controlled by Lukashenko and company. But the overwhelming majority of Belarusians, it seems, are a little disturbed about the news coming out of the World Health Organization, etc., that are saying that, you know, the number may be a bit too high and Belarus may need to start thinking about tightening the measures. But once again, it's Lukashenko who's calling the shots. He's really making a huge gamble on following the Swedish model and then suppressing information about the true number, the true figure of those dead from coronavirus. Right now, it stands at about 50 or 60 officially, simply because the health officials are not, are assigning attributing death to other causes, proximate causes, such as heart attacks and pneumonia, which are actually caused by coronavirus. So there's a little bit of this Orwellian situation where Lukashenko is betting heavily on weathering the storm, suppressing the true picture of what's happening, and riding high all the way to August this year, which is when the presidential election will take place.
And let's talk more, Peter, about his attitude towards the coronavirus. Clearly, he appears not to be too bothered by it. Do you think it's about being like a tough guy president, so to speak, like we've seen in Brazil, Bolsonaro and President Trump, or is there more to this? Maybe the elections, as you mentioned.
Well, once again, the main difference between him and, let's say, Donald Trump and Bolsonaro, who are in league with Lukashenko as this sort of international of coronavirus deniers, so to speak. The main difference, once again, is the freedom of the press. Whereas, you know, both Bolsonaro and Trump have demonstrated authoritarian tendencies. They still have not been able to bring their media on their heel, whereas Lukashenko has practiced this dictatorial authoritarian art ever since he came to power in Belarus. So that's been a quarter of a century. So I think, once again, his gamble is that He will be denying. At the same time, it seems like he's taking coronavirus a bit more seriously now, but he's really banking on being able to suppress the information, weather the storm, but also come out of it economically stronger, because his bet is that if he doesn't shut down the economy, it will weather it much better than, let's say, neighboring Russia or Ukraine.
All right, we'll be watching what happens in Belarus very closely. Thank you so much, Peter Zalmayev. Thank you.